The bear begged the man to free him. What this hunter did next will leave you speechless. The deep forest was eerily silent, too silent. Jacob adjusted his rifle, his boots crunching against the damp leaves as he followed the faint rustling ahead. Then a low, agonized growl cut through the air. His heart pounded. He wasn't alone. Something, or someone, was suffering in the darkness, waiting for him. Jacob was no stranger to these woods. He had hunted here since he was a boy, knew every winding path, every hidden stream. But tonight, something felt different. The wind whispered through the towering pines, carrying an uneasy stillness. The moon, half hidden behind the thick clouds, cast eerie shadows that danced across the damp earth. Jacob wasn't hunting for sport. He had come to check the traps his father once swore by. Traps meant to keep predators at bay. But as he moved closer to the sound, a sickening realization hit him. Something powerful was caught, and it was still alive. Jacob's pulse quickened as he stepped through the undergrowth, his breath visible in the cold night air. Then he saw it, a massive bear tangled in barbed wire. The beast's thick fur was matted with blood, its amber eyes burning with pain and desperation. It let out a guttural growl, struggling weakly against the metal spikes digging into its flesh. Jacob froze. This was no ordinary bear. Its sheer size, the intelligence in its gaze, there was something almost human in its eyes. Then the unthinkable happened. The bear stopped struggling and looked directly at Jacob, as if begging. Jacob tightened his grip on the rifle, his instincts screaming at him to be careful. A trapped bear was unpredictable, desperate, dangerous. But this one, it wasn't lashing out. It wasn't roaring in defiance. It was pleading. For a moment, Jacob hesitated. His father had always taught him that mercy had no place in the wild. A wounded beast was a threat, a liability. But as he stared into the bear's weary eyes, something cracked inside him. Slowly, he slung his rifle over his shoulder and knelt beside the tangled mess of barbed wire. That's when he heard it, a branch snapping behind him. He wasn't alone. Jacob's breath hitched. His fingers tightened around the wire, but he didn't turn around. The forest had gone still again, too still. Then another sound, slow, deliberate footsteps. Someone was watching. He reached for his rifle, but before he could react, a cold voice sliced through the silence. "Step away from the bear." Jacob turned sharply, his pulse thundering. A man stood in the shadows, a hunting rifle aimed directly at him. His face was partially obscured, but Jacob recognized the voice. A poacher. The man smirked. "That thing's worth a fortune. You gonna save it, or let me take the shot?" Jacob's heart pounded. He looked at the bear, then at the poacher. The bear's labored breaths filled the silence, its strength fading fast. Jacob knew what he had to do. Without a word, he dropped his rifle and slowly raised his hands. The poacher chuckled, stepping closer, gun still aimed. But Jacob wasn't surrendering. In one swift motion, he yanked his hunting knife from his belt and slashed through the barbed wire. The bear roared, shaking the trees. The poacher's face twisted in panic. He raised his gun. Too late. The bear lunged. A single gunshot rang out. Then, silence. The forest stood still. The echoes of the gunshot faded into the night. Jacob's hands trembled as he wiped the sweat from his brow. The poacher lay motionless, his rifle knocked away, his body sprawled in the leaves. The bear was gone. Jacob turned, his chest heaving. Blood-streaked paw prints led into the darkness, but the beast had disappeared. He swallowed hard. He had freed a predator, but maybe, just maybe, he had done the right thing. As dawn crept over the trees, Jacob realized one truth. Sometimes the wild had more mercy than man, and that terrified him. Jacob stared at the fading paw prints, the weight of his decision pressing on him. Had he saved a creature of the wild, or unleashed something far worse? He slung his rifle over his shoulder and walked away. But deep in the forest, a low growl echoed once more. The bear remembered.